because now I am audible. So hi, hello, greetings in internet lands. Now that I am in fact audible and captioned, as opposed to just sending secret messages to the wonderful people who read the captions. Um, Audible and caption confirmed. Thank you. All right, now I'm going to make that go away so I don't have to read myself while speaking, which is a bit awkward. It just always seems to mess up me in the head. And then I will do the last step in all of this, which is to click the button which says, "Hi, show yourself on the internet, fool." Ah, there I am. Hello, and welcome back to yet another edition of Lorelink Plans. Uh, this week we are basically doing something topical, as we do occasionally around here. Last in February, it was Call of Cthulhu. Um, and this month, basically, which we still kind of on and off finished up. We're still technically still finishing that one up. But this month we're going to kind of we're going to sell out. Not really. The stream is sponsored by nobody other than the fine people at Lorelink and Andromeda. But we are going to talk about something which is relevant: the D&D movie, or rather, things related to the D&D movie. The D&D just recently got a new movie out called Honor Amongst Thieves, and someone was smart at D&D and realized, hey, if we're releasing a module, basically releasing a movie that's all about a heist and thieves and things like that, and our only thing out there which has anything to do with it is a game called Dragon Heist, which doesn't actually have a heist in it, maybe we should actually come out with a module that covers, say, heists. And so they did smartly enough release a book called Keys from the Golden Vault, um, which is now available wherever fine books are sold. Your local game store, basically D&D Beyond, Roll20. All of those have various different versions of that for you. What it is it's a book that is a kind of a twofold book. Most of the book is little mini adventure heists type things, which basically pit the players as basically put the players as being possibly, you can change this up if you want, as being members of an organization called the Golden Vault, which is essentially a Mission Impossible style, either the old TV series, possibly the new movie if you've seen that, um, where basically a team of operatives are given a target that they need to steal something from for the client. So this could range from breaking into casinos. There are lots of different ones, basically lots of different. If you're curious, there's a casino. There is what else is here? There's a casino, a clockworks, Stygian Gambit. They range in levels from low level to higher levels, as you can see. The other thing they do include is a section in here on what it's like in actually run a heist, which is a nice thing to actually throw in there, because it talks about what it takes to actually plan out a heist, and that's what we here at Lorelink, who basically talk a lot about planning, are going to kind of stick our noses into the conversation, as it were, because a heist is basically planning a heist is an interesting. It basically is kind of a different idea from your typical what you may typically run into in a D&D adventure. We've run previously, if you want to go back on our YouTube channel, in fact, we ran a different heist for Starfinder, which is Pathfinder's science fiction, science fantasy, space opera-ish campaign setting, where basically the players were charged with robbing something from a train, a space train. Think the movie Han Solo, to continue the movie analogy. Um, and then we talked a little bit about it there, but basically the same thing as we're going to talk a little bit more from the fantasy perspective here. What planning a heist really means is it isn't the same as uh, running a normal game of D&D, basically running a normal game of D&D. Because if I was running a normal game of D&D, as we've kind of done here before with Spelljammer or with some of the other Pathfinder stuff, a lot of times it's location basically it is location or event based in terms of it's a relatively straightforward. I mean, as much as anything is straightforward when it comes in contact with your players, game in that you are looking at a situation and you're going to put your players through it and they're going to go from point A to point B to point C to point D, and you have a general idea how it's going to go, what events are going to occur in what sequence, and your players are mostly going to be reacting to what you kind of put in front of them. You're going to be like, okay, here's the building. Basically, here's room A, here's room B. You can go to room C or room D. They go to room D, then they may come back and go to room C later. Relatively straightforward. The heist idea, especially how Golden Vault, the Keys to the Golden Vault book, puts it, is much more of a sit back and kind of let your players plan the adventure out for you, in a sense. What that means is the fact that you're going to give them just enough information, or that they can start to figure out what they're going, where they're looking at, and then let them take it from there. Um, for example, the one we're going to focus on here today is called Prisoner 13. It is in fact somewhat based on the movie, in the fact that Prisoner 13, the central location in Prisoner 13, is the Revel's End, which is a prison which was created for basically an adventure called, I'm going to remember it as soon as I look it up here. Rime of the Frost Maiden, which is a previous adventure that they kind of created this prison with the idea of the fact that they got asked by the people making the movie, hey, we're looking to basically, if we're making a movie about thieves, and so we want to have a prison break as part of it, or want to have a prison as part of it. So basically, give us a good location for that we can set this. And they went, oh, we'll actually create a location for you and seed it into the lore early, so that when the movie actually comes out a couple of years down the line, this is already an established location, and players and fans can be like, oh, it's that place where we had that adventure. This is a clever idea. But in any case, it is a prison that is set in the wild, wintry wastes of around the Icewind Dale, Spine of the World region. It is, of course, on the Sword Coast because 90% of D&D, basically D&D, especially Forgotten Realms D&D, is set on the Sword Coast. Yes, characters and items, basically, they have additional, um, if you are interested in playing basically as the characters from Honor Among Thieves, they actually have stat blocks up for them up on D&D Beyond. And they also have some of the items which are featured in the movie in the basically up there. So if you want to, if you're player, basically if you have a group of players who come to you, you're like, hey, we watched the D&D movie and we're really interested to play around in that kind of world, and you want a way of easing them in, that's a great way of doing it. This is basically, and this adventure is another way of doing that as well, as it's another familiar location from the movie. It's Revel's End, which is the prison that the characters, not really a spoiler, find themselves in at the start of the movie. So, not a spoiler, it's the first 5 minutes of the movie. Where they go from there is spoilers, and I'm not going to talk too much beyond that. It's a fun movie. Don't go in expecting high art, expecting. A lot of people have described it as a kind of Guardians of the Galaxy esque. They basically take on fantasy. Basically, a team of wacky, basically disparate personalities come together and basically build bonds of friendship while snarking at each other. Great popcorn movie that covers Marvel burnout. That's a great way of putting it. It feels like it feels like it is a D&D movie that, well, it doesn't take it seriously and gives you it also doesn't stare at the camera every 20 seconds and wink and basically heavily wink at you and say, hey, do you know this is a D&D movie? Do you know there are things from D&D in this movie? And stare at the camera for a long time until everyone gets uncomfortable. For that, if you want that, you can go watch the old D&D movie. I do not in any such in any manner recommend that you watch the original Dungeons and Dragons movie unless you want to, basically unless you have a lot of popcorn and whatever thing you like to enjoy while consuming bad media, because it is very definitely bad media. Um, but in any case, talking about heists, getting back more on topic here. So basically this one is kind of a reverse prison break heist. That is the kind of that classic trope, the idea of what way it's not even good bad. It's just bad. Yeah, yeah. It's not good. Um, but it's the idea of the fact that you get recruited by someone, a client, who wants something that's inside the prison, whether it be an object, a person, something like that, and you have to. Basically you have to. The characters have to infiltrate into the prison, get the thing, and then infiltrate back out. And obviously, basically with the added side effect that since it's a prison, it's going to have a lot of. Basically, it is designed to keep people in, as it were, and so it has a lot of. Basically, it's really easy to set up that situation in terms of, oh, it's very clear there's going to be security, what type of security, but there's also going to be very clear types of positions. So, how does heist planning differ, especially in to the prison, trying to keep prisoners in? Um, in terms of how heist planning works, and basically, especially basically, really doesn't differ from fantasy heist planning to modern heist planning to science fiction heist planning. Um, the basically it kind of breaks down, and basically in D&D, the Keys to the Golden Vault breaks it down, uh, basically kind of just as well, as I've seen in otherwise. It is you have a briefing where you tell them what the target is. Usually that's a client coming to them and saying, I want X, or I need X, or X has been taken from me, or I want and sometimes it's something that is an actual object. So you may need to create basically an actual object. Sometimes it is something simpler, basically more nebulous, like revenge or something like that. Then you have a basically then you kind of turn basically then you use that to give them information. Here is where it is. Here is how here is what how it can work, etc., etc. Um, then you basically and you give them a little bit of information, and then you kind of turn it over to the players at that point, and you kind of step back a little bit as the GM. And that's the part that kind of makes it a little different from normal. Like you're always going to have a little bit of that, like, oh, there's a dragon in the next room. How are we going to approach it? Basically, there's always a little bit. A good GM, basically, the best parts about being a good GM is when you back off and you let your players do all the talking and role playing and things like that. It's a great feeling. But this even more so is you back off and you let your players go. Basically, essentially, your players then have to ask more questions. They need to figure out more information. They may need to make rolls to get additional information and things like that. And there may be kind of its own adventure in just that planning phase itself. And then you shift into the actual execution phase where they actually try to get it, and then there's essentially then there's the consequences phase. Okay, they basically how did what they do actually end up? Did they get the item? Did they get the revenge? Did some of them get captured? Did you have to deal with that now? Did they get the item but they broke it? Did they get the item but everybody now knows but the people know basically their people know who they are and they're now people out looking for them? Did they do something while executing the mission which is going to upset the client? We'll get into that a little bit in this adventure. Um, and so they work kind of best as little short vignettes, as it were. Another game that does a lot with heists called Blades in the Dark, which I'll probably talk about more later on. Basically, it has a very similar setup. Likes to call them, think of them as basically say, think of them like TV episodes. By the end of the episode, you should have wrapped up the major plot arc. Now, note that an episode doesn't have to necessarily take place over one game session. It might basically you might break it into two or three. You might have an arc, but by the end of it, that basically it should be wrapped up, and it's up to you then to deal with whether or not there are consequences and things like that. So what does that come down? What does that mean? And where does lore link come into that? So there's a lot of planning that has to go into this, and it is best as a GM. Basically as a GM, there's basically you kind of want to have a minimum level of information set up in advance to the players before you turn it over for planning. Um, you kind of basically you want to have that mission briefing. You want that planned out, and you want a little bit more behind that. Um, so for the example in this mission, basically what we're talking about here, what we have is we have the Prisoner 13. So you have the mission briefing, which is essentially this hook here. So you have you have kind of two parts. You're always going to kind of have two parts. You're going to have what the client knows and is willing to tell, and what the actual world is. And this is kind of where you want to come into, okay, so I want to kind of break things up in terms of what do the players know versus what the players don't know. Um, and how we do that a lot in LoreLink is there's a lot of basically when you're adding a note or a location. So if I have a mission briefing, like if I just call this the mission briefing, for example, and we're going to talk about this character key to the ancestral vault. We'll get more into that, but it's good just to do a brief kind of basically a brief kind of thing. Basically, so you're gonna have this mission briefing, and then you're gonna go into it, and you're going to have information in here which is going to be public. So there's going to be, hey, basically maybe there is a text block where you're going to have them basically kind of quotes out basically, okay, this is what we basically here's what I'm wanting from you. And maybe you're going to have I see you're going to have things like they're going to provide maps and things like that. So image map and things like that. All of that you're going to want in there, but you may also want to have basically additional information in here which the players may or may not actually find out. And so you can either, basically in LoreLink, we can either set that up as you can add those as individual notes. Basically, you can have a note that says, Beryl, for example, just to kind of go with stuff. Basically, Beryl knows the guard patrol regularly. I can no longer spell. Cool. There you know what? That's what we have spell check for. Thank you. 8-hour shifts. There are 75. And at any given. Okay. And you can mark this as secret from players or not. Basically, so I can use that if basically. So one way to do this is I can have all this information that Beryl knows, and I can list it all as separate notes. And if it's a secret from the players, it's marked that way. If they ask a question about it and Vera tells them, I can simply uncheck it. And now it's basically, I know that the players know that information about that, basically about that part of the heist. Because when you're planning out a heist, you're going to essentially have the character is going to have a long list of information that can be given to them. A lot of times it's basically you're going to sit down and go, okay, that this basically either you're going to sit down or the adventurer is going to give you. And I'm doing all this typing on a separate screen that you can't see. Hang on one second. Let me switch that back. Cool. So here you go. Basically, in terms of the notes and things like that, this is what I was talking about. So basically, here is it's a check marks, is secret, save. Now it says it's a secret to players. I go in here and I uncheck that. I can tell the fact that it's visible to players. Simple as that. So that way I can have lists of questions that the players might ask on information that Veryl knows in discrete chunks. And I can mark that all in here. And there might be some stuff that I don't want, basically, that Veryl will never tell them unless pushed or forced or otherwise confronted. And so I might make note of that. I might basically have information to basically do that, and it's going to be marked as secret, and it's going to stay secret. And this game, of course, in this game, there might be some stuff that requires perception checks, or insight checks. It might be okay if you get an insight check of an 18, then you notice the fact that that they're doing X action or Y action that kind of gives away the fact that they may know more about this than they're giving on. And so I can use that to set. So if I wanted to do that, for example, so I could say insight 18. Veryl knows that much of the treasure in the vault is already gone, but is hoping that even a small fraction of the vault's original fortune is still a substantial. I cannot spell. I'm judging myself on my spelling here. There we go. So now I know basically, okay, on an insight 18, and I can actually call that out. More. So that I can tell the fact that insight 18, boom. So that is basically, that's one way of, you could set it up and things like that. But that's basically the idea of this. Basically, if you're approaching a heist, you want there's a middle ground here you want to hit, and it's a tricky space. And it's a little easier with these modules that we have because the module, however, basically gives you as much as it's going to give you. But if you're doing it at free form and on your own, it's a little bit trickier. It's the idea of the fact that you want to plan for just enough information. You want to have enough set in stone that you're not hemming and hawing and having to invent too much on the fly when your players confront you about stuff, but you don't want to necessarily put them into a box. The fun of a heist, basically making an impossible heist isn't fun. It basically there's no point to it. If there is no way, it basically, or even basically just the same, I would almost put it on the same level. Making a heist where there's only one way to solve it isn't fun. It's not basically the fun part about a heist is there are two fun parts about a heist. One is coming up with a creative solution to how you want to get in. Basically, how your players pull this off, and then basically it's sitting down and giving your players a bunch of basically kind of a roadmap and being like, okay, how do you want to do this? And watching them come up with a wild solution, like, okay, we're breaking into a prison, so hey, one of our players is a campestry, which is a small fungus like a mushroom type thing. What if we sneak them in as part of the food supply? What if we find yes, a fungus. There is one campaign that I'm listening to called Hell or High Rollers, where one of the players is a sentient mushroom person. Hey, basically D&D is all about being wild and creative. You can come up, basically, if you can think of it, you can do it. So basically, it's so you have a basically you're like, oh, this is a fungus person, or basically if you have a druid or something, basically a fungus amongst us. Yes, there's an imposter. Or you have basically amongst the imposter idea, you have a druid who wants to disguise themselves as one of the horses that leads the carriage and cart rides in. And you're like, okay, that's okay. basically you don't want to be like, no, that doesn't work. They have magic spells which detect that because I can't handle that. Basically, I've written my notes in such a way that I can't deal with the fact that something like that could happen, and so I have to shut it down, or I have to basically. You want enough flexibility to let them do the obvious thing of, oh, okay, it's a prison. We're going to disguise ourselves as one of the guards, and we'll join in that way, or we'll just basically and you can basically it's good to have those things in there so that if your players get stuck because they may sometimes you'll hit a situation where players are people just like everybody else. They have off days, and some days you look at your table and they're just like, okay, creativity just isn't happening off the top of my head. You've done a good job of making this sound too formidable. Basically, give us a break here. You're like, okay, so your contact, and that's kind of what they do in this adventure. In this adventure, they have the contact be like, hey, I can basically my clan basically has worked with this prison, so we have information about it, and we have we have a network that can help you by gaining access to a couple of the guards or cooks or other stuff, and we can knock them out for you and um, basically let you take their places, and then oh, okay, so we can get in like that, and then you get the ball rolling, and then they're like, okay, once we're inside though, how do we want to deal with this? Basically, for example, this one is there is a prisoner inside of here, which they're like, okay, the prisoner is the key to basically the prisoner is the key to this. So you want to have information. So, like for example, I'm going to want to create uh, prisoner 13, who is the target, as it were. Um, and I've got a picture of prisoner 13. So I'm going to insert that picture. Let's see here. I think I have a. What's their really short stat block for prisoner 13? Um, neutral, evil, dwarf, monk. Oh, there you go. So we're going to save that because I want to get that in. And so now I've got the prisoner created, and I'm going to want to create basically. I'm going to want to pull in the information that they've given me about prisoner 13, because I want that information on hand. Um, because especially during the planning stage and things like that, because they're going to want to be like, okay, what's our target like? What's our target want? Where's our target located? And so I'm going to want to have information about them. So I'm going to have that target. I'm going to have the target information in here. Let's copy some of it in. So let's go ahead and put some stuff from the description in here. Go ahead and save that, and we're going to put some of her motivations. We'll go ahead and put their. Oops, nope, that was not what I. Basically, we can either add them as separate notes, so we can track them that way, or we can call out for basically questions you might want to ask this way, and what the module says. Like verbal threats. Okay, what happens if you try the verbal? Basically, how do you figure out what the key is? What if you try to take her by force? What if you want to trade for the key? And let's get last resort kind of stuff. So you can save all that. So you can have all that information about the character, and so when the players come to asking, they're asking for information about it. You might also want to have like okay, so things you might want to track. You can either have Veril, you could have notes on Veril's character, or you could have notes in here. like that Beryl knows that she's okay, she was investigating agent for the clan, but steal the vault. Let's go steal the master spot. That you have that information stored in notes as well. So basically the other basically so you have characters. You could also have basically you have the events, and so the big thing for basically for this is going to be you're going to want to have kind of the look basically probably the location. A lot of times, the location is going to what ends up being the key, and a lot of times basically you're going to create some of the other stuff, but the main thing you're going to want to get solid is the actual location. So I want to create Revel's End. Let's give it the image. That splash image, and then we're going to give it the map. We'll give it the DM's map for a reason that will become apparent. So read aloud. Obviously, basically, it's going to give us a nice little description for what Revel's End looks like, or what you'll probably read to the players as they see it. Basically, and so here it is. Okay, so let's go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so big thing with basically the big thing for this is going to be that there's a lot of information that you're going to have to keep track of when you're running the heist, either basically either as part of the planning or either during the execution. And that information you're going to want to have available to you wherever you are having to look currently during the adventure. Because a lot of times what you're going to have is basically if you're having a basically most heists will have security of some basically you're going to have security and you're going to have mitigating you're going to have some complications or things like that. If you're having a heist on a different plane, maybe it's okay. Any divination spells always return two answers, a true one and a false one. Okay, so basically you want to know that wherever you are in the location, you want that information. You're going to have guard patrols and things like that. So, like the two things for this one, which are important, are let's get the fact that there's extreme cold and there are guards on watch. And you might also want to keep track of the fact that there are rules. This one provides rules for suspicion. And basically, and what high basically suspicion and basically things like that. So you might want to list it there. But we'll list those two. But what this does is because I'm creating it this way, I'm going to go through and I'm going to create a bunch of children to basically essentially to represent all of the different areas. If I look at the map here, okay, you can see the fact that on this map, probably should have shrunk it down, but we'll deal with it for this size for now. You can see the fact that there are lots of called out different areas, R1, R2, R3, R4, R15, R16, R11. Basically all the way up to 22. And these are different locations that the players may end up with basically end up going to in the adventure. So let's start with the obvious one of basically R17, which are the cells. So let's go ahead and let's grab the information about the cells. I'm having to, basically the map size is a little bit off because I didn't shrink it down. And so it's like, here's the full size map. And I'm like, it's a little large. But easy fix for that is just to shrink your map size in whatever image program you have. Excuse me, one second. Excellent. Okay. I saw that it's one of those where you feel it coming and you know you have some time to deal with it, so you can at least take care of it. So let's start with R17. what does that get called out in here? So the advantage to doing things in here versus if you have D&D Beyond, basically to show this as basically, of course, tooting my own horn because hey, it's this lore link channel. That's what we do. That's what we're here for. So you have that giant map that has a bunch of different locations which are in some kind of order. R4 is here. This is R17. That's R18. This is R11. And basically, R7 is down here. Basically R6 is somewhere else. R6 is actually there. R7, R9, R8 is somewhere else. R9 is also over here. So it's kind of a complicated mess. And basically, here are all of the notes for all of the locations. And so if you're running the game, basically if you're sitting down with your players and you're running the game and they're like, oh, I'm going to look at one of the cells, you have to go find R17 in this list. And they're like, okay, back out in the hallway, I want to duck into the armory. Okay, that's over R10. That's the armory here. Okay. Um, because your players don't see R10, they're not going to have a map which is basically has all these labels on them. You have to remember the names. So either you're searching them or you're using this. You have to use this index over here. And if you have to duck into something else because they're like, oh, I have to deal with suspicions. Okay, that's a different section over here, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to create some I want to create basically some new locations. There are two ways to do that. One is I could go over basically if I'm thinking about children, I can come here to children and I can create a bunch of them that way. If I'm thinking about it here, we also have basically we recently created this. Basically, we were basically listening to user feedback. This nice, basically this nice quick create button, right? That's always visible on screen. So if you're thinking of something and you're typing in here, and you want to basically say like the doc, and you're like, oh, I should probably link the doc. I didn't create a doc yet. Oh, let me create a doc. Location, I'm gonna pop this up. I'm gonna create the doc, which is, oops, I am talking about this and I'm not showing it again. Shame on me. I will eventually learn to manage stuff. It's fine. So basically, so what I was talking about is if you're talking here, basically you're like the doc and you realize, okay, I want to create the doc. This button down here, this plus symbol, you click on it, boom, click location. Now you can quickly create the R2 docs, and you can go to the doc section, which I had to figure out where the doc section is. Okay, there we go. Oh, it's R1 is the doc. My bad. Okay, R1, and it has the basically you're like, okay, that's I want to put that under basically Rebel's End. Long doc. Basically, a few tips. Signs of being long years of I can't so I just picked a word that yeah, spell check's like, what are you doing? I don't know what you're doing. Not misuse, disuse, disuse is the word I'm looking for. Oh, I have so badly spelled this word that my web browser has decided to give up. Come on, come back. Come back to me. Chrome, come back. Okay, there we go. Chrome decided that it was dumb. Misuse. Um, basically, a quick description from the basically quick. Chrome has been really buggy for lately. Yeah, basically the advantage disadvantage of web browsers. So ships basically document off with supplies. So just if I need anything, I'm not going to have any children of that, so I'm going to save that. So now it's created that doc. So if I want to say I want to call out that doc, I could go locations, find location, doc. Oh no, it's R1 the doc, right? Remember that. There we go, R1 the docs. And so now let's be Docs of basically how goods and staff are brought into the boom. Save that, maybe. Oh, you're basically Chrome. You've decided that you're just done for today, huh? Yeah, I understand Chrome. So there we go. Thank you. Work with me though. I just need you. I need you to last a little bit longer here. So I've got that. So now I've got that under children. So if we want to go basically listen under children, I could see it. It's 20 different extensions. Yeah, sometimes extensions can basically, you're like, oh, I've got all these useful things. Wait, why is Chrome not doing anything anymore? I don't understand Chrome. Why? Okay, so basically, the other easy way of creating child locations, if I click that here, it automatically sets it up as Rebel's End. So, for example, if I wanted to do the cells that we talked about earlier, R17, cells, a quick read aloud from the book, and then a description. Let's go ahead and save that. So now basically it's automatically attached to R17. I should probably change the name of R1 because if I want it to sort in alphabetical order, I'm going to want it to be 0. Because alphabetical order is a funny thing. So basically, but just as a note, while I'm in here, we could show this off. So I have the docs, and basically, remember we talked about basically we wanted to have that, basically those notes from the parents. So basically, I don't have to copy this information about extreme cold or guards on watch to every different location where it might be relevant. And that's going to help me in basically, especially when basically I need to look up something quickly because the players have triggered something. The players are like, okay, guards on watch. Basically, you want to basically like how often do the guards look, things like that. Basically, the guards in the tower see or see, here's what you do for approaching ship, a refrigerator, once they're flying overhead. One guard just into the tower, they alert the rest of the prisoners, and while the others stay at their post. Okay, now I know how the guards are going to react to the players doing something weird in the prison, and I don't have to go all the way back up to the top level to look for that, and I don't have to copy that onto every location to remember that. So and that's going to apply to a lot of your heist-like situations where you'll want to know how will guards react, and basically if a guards hear noises in any given situation, how basically guards or security, however you want to do it, how is basically what magical protections are in place. Like we talked about, the evasion spells act weird. You're going to put those in those notes there so that you're going to have those quickly available when you go, oh, when your player casts a spell, you're like, okay, how does basically, I remember I set up some stuff on how magic works in here. Let me basically, I want to be able to quickly check. Boom. Okay, this is how magic works in here. Okay, cool. I know that. I'm set. I can keep going because again, the fun of a heist thing is a heist should be relatively quick paced. A heist adventure should be a plotting room to room search. You want to have that level of stress, that kind of ratcheting up of tension. Um, Much like basically Call of Cthulhu is kind of basically except we did with Call of Cthulhu, is kind of that basically that kind of that same idea, except Call of Cthulhu is a slower burn. You want your players to feel like they're doing stuff, but it's slowly descending out of their control. Where a heist should feel like the players are on a basically it's like Call of Cthulhu is kind of like what's the best way to talk about it. Basically, Call of Cthulhu is you're building a bridge essentially slowly across a ravine, and you're about almost halfway through, and you realize you're probably not going to make it, and it's that slowly dawning realization, and it's like, I don't know if we have enough wood. I don't know if our back supports are actually supporting us, and it's just kind of slowly dawning on you that you're going to get to the middle of this and things are going to go wrong and you're going to have to make a decision whether to keep going forward and pretending to hear all of this about to conclude or to go backwards. Like that's the feeling, like, basically that's the feeling you're trying to get it on your player, basically give to your players. Like in the game that we're playing, basically, the idea of the fact is the game starts off with the players, basically, as we did in our game. Players generally don't believe in what's going, basically, believe in the supernatural. Or if they do, they believe in a relatively harmless version of it. And they're slowly learning more and more and going, hey, this is basically, this is a bit weird. This is basically, there's more stuff going on. Can we actually make it out of basically, can we basically, did we put ourselves into a situation where there's something is seriously wrong? Oh, not only is there something seriously wrong, we're in the middle of it. Which is kind of what's going on in the situation of our Call of Cthulhu game. The players start off, oh, this guy wants to talk to us. Okay, let's research into some of the things. Hey, there's some weird stuff going on here about this house. It all seemed to be centered on this house. Let's go to the house. Okay, there's even weirder stuff with the town. There's even weirder stuff with the house. Oh, there's something in the house, maybe? Oh no, we're in the house with something weird. Now what? And basically, then it's the basically then you kind of give your players that decision point of, do you want to press on or do you back out? Basically, it's that okay. Let's you had and he had the high ground. Basically, yeah, Basically was in charge of the situation. It was fine. Nothing going on weird there. It's okay. But heist, basically on the flip side, is meant to be a roller coaster ride. The planning and the execution is that clanking up to the top. It's that building the excitement. It's building the you're like, okay, we're basically you're like, okay, we're gonna do this, and basically we can do this. You're like, you're okay, I'm gonna be ready for it. You're looking around, and basically you're realizing, okay, we're gonna have to build all this. You're going up, you're going up, you're going up, and then it starts. And once it starts, there's no really stopping except for brief moments which you just know are just going to be more chaos immediately ensuing again. Um, and that's the idea of a heist thing. Basically, you want basically the player's like, okay, we're going in, we're in. Okay, now we're in. We have a you have a limited clock. Usually, it's a ticking, some kind of ticking clock. I'm saying clock because I just read a little. I was just reading basically on the other heist adventure game that I talked about called Blades in the Dark. Which, if you like D&D, basically, if you come into the D&D game and go, wow, I really like the heist stuff in here, basically, I want to run more heist games for my players, and I wish the system had more stuff dedicated to basically to running the heist. Check out Blades in the Dark. Basically, highly recommend. It goes up on Humble Bundle or Bundle of Humbling. Yeah, Bundle of Holding. On quite basically quite frequently. There is in fact actually an SRD of it as well, which I'll talk about SRDs here in a bit too. Um, and it's an entire system designed around basically essentially your party being a group of heists, basically setting it basically being set in the city, and you're pulling off heist after heist after heist. This is basically D&D obviously is going to have to make some kind of compromises in how they're going to do it, because D&D not only is it going to be a heist adventure one week, but the next week it might be going off and slaying a dragon. The week after that, basically you might be trying to basically fighting a vamp, basically dealing with the machinations of a vampire who has political control of an area, and you're trying to deal with that. Um, maybe another one is an interplanar hopping adventure. So it could be all sorts of different things. And so as such, it's not going to really basically you're going to have to tweak it and push it in order to do stuff. Um, that said, as long as you have the right preparation, you could pull off basically doing a heist in D&D relatively well. Um, but again, that key here, when getting back to what I was talking about, is that ticking clock, that bit of pressure, the idea of the fact that okay, basically in this one, basically what they do in this one is they like to have basically what we would probably track in here as another event. Oops, let me actually create an event instead of I'm in view mode. If you ever come into Lore Link and you're like, why can't I do anything? Always check that little button in the upper right. See if it's basically if it's a pencil, click the pencil, and suddenly usually things will start. Basically, you'll be able to create stuff again. You're probably in view mode. So I, somewhere there is a basically somewhere there is a basically English teacher in my past who was very disappointed in my inability to spell effect using spell check. I can spell most things. Some words get me. So, basically, so basically, I'm going to create an event called. Oof, come on, there we go. I wonder if my internet. No, my internet says it's green. So, like, at least the stream isn't going anywhere bad. So, okay. Just basically, just the website today has just decided it wants to be slow. Okay. But so in any case, so basically the ticking clock in this game is suspicion. And let me pull out what they do. So what it is it's the idea of the fact that as your characters are broken into this prison, they're basically, no matter how they've gotten in, they're going to cause events which are going to make people wonder, hey, is there something going on? Basically, did you have a weird encounter? Did did you see a mushroom leave the kitchen? I could have sworn that a armed mushroom just left the kitchen. Or one of the basically, didn't we have 5 horses when we got here? Why are there only 4 horses in the stable? Things like that. And so they're mushroom. They're gonna make me think badger. So basically, effectiveness is going to put level 6. So let's create a table here. It's going to be level patrol die, and let's see if you're curious what I'm doing. Oops, I decided that I wanted to go there. So level patrol die in DC. Basically, you can easily snake. Yep. So level 1, D20, and what's the last one? 10. DC 10. So go ahead and so that goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that goes from D20. As you might suspect, this goes from D20 to D12 to D10 to D8 to D6 to, you guessed it, D4. And while those numbers are going down, these numbers are going up. So what this is that basically, let's go ahead and change this to when the players here or otherwise disrupt the normal operations of the prison, level will increase. Corridors. Time. Roll the patrol die for the level of the players are at. So the prison is at, rather. So 1. And everything is okay. meet listed DC. So basically, essentially in this one, it's the idea of the fact that if you make stuff disappear, let's go ahead and save that just to make sure it stays. Especially since it's been taking a couple seconds. So it's the idea of the fact that the ticking clock in this case is the suspicion level of the guards. Basically, if as your players are in the prison, obviously by being there, they are likely to disrupt the natural order of the prison. They're going to make stuff disappear. They're going to basically there'll be a new guard face that no one recognizes. They're going to be caught talking to a prisoner that they shouldn't be. They'll be in an area they shouldn't be, something like that. And because of that, the suspicion level is going to go up, and basically the more suspicion level goes up, you're going to end up in this kind of spiral of they're suspicious, so they're going to check more, which means they're likely to catch more things, which means they're going to become more suspicious. So you have basically so the players have this idea, know the fact that time is that basically sands are swirling down the hourglass here. And I'm going to put this event in here, and basically if it reaches something like let's create another event, and we'll call this High Alert. And so basically there's the idea of the fact that, okay, the prison could eventually go to lockdown. Good, save that. Nope, go back to me. Events. All right, that's right. Everything is slow. Okay. I'm just going to trigger high alert, and now I've linked that there, so I know I can easily find that out when I come back to it later. Save that. Eventually, oh, hey, things are running faster now. Good. It's the idea that the player, again, the idea that the players know this is coming, and that's what you as a GM are reminding them of. You're not going to necessarily tell them the exact specifics. You're not going to say prisoner is now at level 3. I mean, you could if you want to, but most likely you're going to be like, you're getting a little basically you're getting some odd looks from the prisoner. Basically, you've seen more patrols going around recently, or basically they're starting to check more. They're starting to check IDs more often, etc., etc. And so you're going to want to keep track of that. And because I've made it an event, likely what I'm going to do is I'm going to, if I have a play session, basically that's part 1. Oops. So let's call it that. Basically, if I have a play session, so I'm going to mark that as an event. I'm going to put suspicion in there, and I'm going to I'm not going to complete it, but likely when I carry into the next session, if I'm going to keep copying this over into the next one. So select all, and I'm going to say with selected, move into new session, or copy into new session. So now I can create a new session. If I basically this is heist part 2. I'm going to save that. So now I'm when I have now I have 2 sessions. I have part 1, and so I'm prepping for part 2. I'm going to have that when I come back in, I'm going to have a quick link to that here. I know, oh, okay, I can come in here, and likely I'm going to either have a note. Maybe I bold this. Basically, they're at level 2, so let's bold that. So now I can tell they're at level 2. Or maybe all of this I can add notes like basically reasons why basically That was a terrible spelling. It's just this even spell check just gave up on me on that one. Cool. You ever look at a word too often that you can now no longer spell it? That's what I'm doing. I've gone through. I couldn't spell it. Could spell it. Now I'm looking at the word and it's just weird. Okay. 2. Guard side mushroom. So now basically I'm going to have these notes and I'm going to attach these notes to this event. And what that's going to do is now when I'm reviewing, I have one place which gives me all the information I need to know for why are the guards getting more suspicious in here? Why is the clock ticking down? So if I need to reference back, so if that's basically now I know, hey, basically the guards are getting kind of suspicious because one of them saw an armed mushroom. If someone else sees an armed mushroom, basically talking your way out of it may be slightly more difficult than something else because they were like, hey, my buddy over there, basically Ravenel over there, said the fact that he saw something like that. I thought he was nuts, but that looks like an armed mushroom to me. And you're gonna have to be like, no, it's not an armed mushroom. It's obviously just it's a doll that one of the prisoners made. See, these prisoners have gotten so bored they're arming their mushrooms. Or your guard, you're like, I had to take it away since they gave the mushroom a knife and they were obviously planning on stabbing somebody. Something along those lines. And so that's what you're kind of building up to it. Again, it's the idea of the fact that murder shroom. It's the idea of the fact that you are building up towards this climax where things are falling apart, the wheels are starting to come rattling and maybe starting to come apart. And once they're having to make faster and faster decisions. They're having to be like, okay, we're out in the corridor. We have the prisoner. Basically, we have the information we need, but we've got the prisoner out of the jail cell, and we're in the hallway with them, and the patrol comes around the corner. Okay, how do you deal with that? They gave a mushroom a knife. How do you deal with that? Deal with this game. Move on. This game. Move on from there. And so it's meant to be. And as a GM, basically as a note, a lot of times as a GM, you might feel like you need to give your players basically there's a subtle line you have to walk when you're being a GM. It's that idea of the fact that you want your players to have a good time, and therefore, unless you're in certain circumstances, you're not going to be basically like initiative. You're not forcing your players to always give you a decision in 6 seconds. Basically, because that's the amount of time a round has. So you're like, tell me what you're doing and have your roll done in 6 seconds, or I'm skipping you and going to the next player. However, basically, so most of the time you're letting people think, you're not putting people in pressure. And again, you should know your group. This may be a situation where there are people who do that in circumstance, basically when they're playing basically in some groups. Yes. Generally, it's because there are some people who are like, I want the game to keep going, and therefore I'm going to, if you are not prepared by the time it comes to you, we're to give you your answer or we're done. It's a play style that only works in certain again, like I said, it only works in certain circumstances and with certain groups. Because some people do not take well to being thrown under that level of stress because, hey, well, a lot of us role play and we're here to have a good time. We're here to have fun. We're here to basically this is fantasy escapism, et cetera, et cetera. You don't want to push your players into a bad situation, basically into a situation where they feel bad in reality, as opposed to just, oh no, my character is in trouble. This person's honestly getting stressed out by this, and they're like going to get up and just walk away from the room at that point. But if your group can handle it, sometimes ratcheting up the tension like that works to basically essentially reinforce what's going on in the game. A patrol comes around the corner. What do you do? And I need an answer quickly. I cannot have you basically basically, I want you to give me a faster response because I want the reaction of your player or your basically the character that you're playing to be what that character would do in a snap decision. Basically, I want basically. So, is your snap basically? What's your first reaction? What's your gut instinct? Like basically, kind of like in Tune. In Tune, you want your turns to be faster because you want your players to, as we said, act then think. I want your first reaction. I want your silliest, zaniest thing. I basically, if you say I'm going to jump off the building, cool, done. We'll deal with the consequences of that. Um, all the time, yeah. Basically, all the time is basically kind of is pushing it, and it's yeah, basically GMs who do that tend to be people who want to have basically they want the game to start at exactly 6 p.m., be done at 10 p.m., and cover exactly all the material that they have set out for this adventure. Some people that's how they deal with GMing and things like that is that they are controlling, very controlling, which if you have a group which agrees to that and they understand that and they like that and so they're willing to come back to that, good for you. Most of the time though, most groups, and as a starting GM, I would never recommend that for a starting GM, basically as a way of dealing with it. Basically, as a starting GM, you're going to make mistakes, so be generous with your players because they're going to be generous with you. Otherwise, they're not. They're just going to leave. Um, but it's the idea. It's like Tony says. I played a GM like that in college once. If you get in that situation, you go, nope, that's not for me, and you basically a lot of players are just going to be like, nope, and nope out because that's not what they're signing up for. Role playing is a lot about putting yourself into funny situations and having fun while doing it, not giving yourself a second job. Um, forcing a game to go at that pace. It's yes and no, because the fact that if you're always just kind of railroading everything over the top, you already have a plan on how things are going to go, and thus basically you don't have to think of anything else up. It is a very railroady, straightforward type experience, which again, basically it's I've written the book and I'd like you to experience it. And so I already know how this is going to go out. And the die rolls are just you basically just how long it takes you to progress past this thing I have set up. Um, and basically that is the difference between being basically running a game versus running a uh basically writing a book. And a height basically it's kind of interesting. Like there's kind of a scale. Basically, there's definitely kind of a scale. There are some games and some systems which are more authorship intended in terms of I want to run a uh, I'm running a story and we're running through a story and it's mostly me doing this and that's what we're going to do. And then basically which are basically those tend to be more of your dungeon crawls. I basically, if I'm running a dungeon crawl, I have a general idea of what the adventure is going to be like. I basically players are going to go in the front door, they're going to encounter some traps, they're going to bumble around for a bit, but they're generally going to make it through this level. If I've got a good handle on the group, I'm generally going to know how far they're going to make it. And so it's mostly just, oh, we're going to have fun. They're going to explore these things that I've discovered for them, and that's the fun the players are having, are discovering the things and the pitfalls and the traps, and basically working through all of that and reaching the end. Kind of like an escape room. Basically, you're exploring someone else's story. Basically, you can't go into an escape room and just pull stuff off the wall, take camera, basically like, hey, you know what? I bet you I can build a ramp out of this and we can cross the bridge this way. No, that's not what you do in this escape room, sir. You have to go through and unlock the keys and things like that. That's basically you're in someone else's you're in their story. Basically, and so kind of in the middle of that, basically heists are more towards the shared experience than the authorship side of things because, like we said at the beginning of this, you are starting off with an idea and then you are being open, you're letting your players can't patch it through the wall. Yeah, basically listening to people who run escape rooms and some of their wildest stories are amazing. Um, but in any case, it's the heist is I'm giving you this thing and I want to sit back and I'm going to let you trash it because ultimately you want your players to succeed in this. So there's still a little bit of authorship in there. You have an end goal in mind, um, but you kind of want to step back and be like, oh, what are you going to do? How are you going to approach this? And of course, on the far end of things, there is completely joint storytelling, which tend to be more GM-less type systems where there is no predetermined plot. Everyone just kind of collaboratively builds a story together. Things like Fiasco. There's a couple other ones. But Fiasco is one of the bigger ones. Where it's everyone shows up with a character and all their characters just kind of interact and you build a story off of how you bounce off of each other, and at the end of it you have a story. Yeah. um but basically no one is in charge. No one's basically You're not doing a lot of, oh, how basically this is the story I wanted to tell when I showed up today. But so heists are that middle, and so the important thing with heists is basically I feel like one of the important things with heist is setting that situation up and then starting to tick down that clock, and not actually making clock ticking noises, but essentially making clock ticking noises. Basically increasing the patrols, basically having a prisoner, basically like if you keep basically having a prisoner call out like, hey, I think you're new here. Things like that, giving them a little bit more in terms of, okay, we have to keep moving, we have to keep going, we can't stick around here. Um, like basically if you're watching a movie, basically a lot of times in the heist movie, the planning happens, the planning gets executed, and something has to go wrong. Otherwise, it's not a fun heist movie. You have to deal with things going wrong. You have to deal with complications. Um, like in this one in particular, there is very definitely there's a complication that they reach towards the end where the players are forced to go, okay, we thought we were here to do thing A, but we're really here to do thing B. Okay, how do we do thing basically how do we deal with thing B? Can we do thing B? Improvise on the fly. um basically speaking back to the D&D movie which you're talking about here, it's a quote from a trailer basically in terms of, I'm the guy who makes plans, that's all. What do you need to come? Well, when the plans fail, I need to make new plans. So you make plans that fail. Well, no, the plans, well, yes, the plans do fail, but obviously you have to have someone there to make new plans, because essentially that's the joy of the heist is you have someone who makes the plan and then they go with, because their plan inevitably fails for some reason, and they have to be there to make a new plan to get the team back together to focus them on whatever the new situation is. Waving this Kleenex around. Whatever the new situation, and then go from there. Okay, cool. Basically, all right, new plan, deal with this, deal with that. Let's try to focusing to deal with that when that happens. Yep. Basically, that's in terms of knowing your group. There are some groups which will do better with heists, and other groups that won't. If you don't have people that A, plan well, or B, deal with surprises well, heists probably aren't your thing. You probably don't want to run that with your party. So basically have a talk with your group to test it out with something smaller. Basically, that's the joy of D&D. If it doesn't work out next week or something like that, you can finish up that little arc, and then you can go on to, with those same characters, go back to slaying dragons, rescuing princesses, or slaying princesses and rescuing dragons, however your group works out. Um, but and it's going basically fit things to how your group works. Experiment, find out, things like that. Being rescued by a princess, self-rescuing princesses are a thing. One other thing I wanted to talk about, because I talked about SRDs and things like that. So one of the things basically we talked about this a little bit when we're dealing with Pathfinder games. Would like to be rescued by princess thing. Just put yourself into increasingly more and more dangerous situations, and eventually one will show up. That's all how it works, right? Maybe not in real life. Don't do that, kids. Don't try this at home. So, one of the things we talked about is, um, Basically, one thing we talked about is SRDs and things like that. And obviously, basically, basically, I am obviously running this adventure out of D&D Beyond because that's the digital format that D&D supports. However, you don't necessarily have to run a D&D game. You do not have to have a D&D Beyond subscription. You don't have to. Maybe you, for some reason, within the last couple of months, have decided to cancel your D&D Beyond subscription. You don't have that anymore. But a lot like with Pathfinder, you may want the ability to link to other things. Like, for example, here, basically to gain the benefit of a see invisibility spell. Now, that's all that this adventure says, is just see invisibility spell. As a GM, that doesn't really help me because, like, okay, how far can you see invisibility spell? What does the see invisibility spell exactly reveal to you? How long? Okay, basically, what does that do, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to want to basically kind of put more information about that. And so with the Pathfinder system, we have a rules reference system that lets you look up stuff. But even without the rules reference system, if we haven't added it in for your favorite system, like we're looking into adding it for other systems like D&D and things like that, you want to be able to link to basically it's nice to be able to link to it. And there are plenty of basically because of all the wonderful work that got done, basically yelling at WotC for their decisions about the OGL. Or basically WotC, depending on who you want to listen to, WotC coming back and saying, no, actually, we never intended that. So it's basically whoever side you wish to take on that one. The upshot of it is wins for everybody. Basically, SRDs are here to stay, and a lot of their content is now available in SRDs. There are, say, for example, three. There is the actual SRD available on their website. There is the fifthsrd.org, or basically 5esrd.com. All these are great things. And so, for example, the see invisibility spell, if I want to spells by class, actually, let's just do spells A to Z because we know what we're looking for. So we want to basically search for see invisibility. Now I have a reference to basically how see invisibility works. And if I want to, I can. I can just quickly link that there. And so now I have this as a link. If I click on it, oops, I need to switch back. Sorry. We said to switch back. Can't see. Yep. All right. There we go. So the invisibility, basically I put bracket, close bracket, see invisibility. Then I link to one of those SRDs, and now it's basically if I come down here, I can see the fact that is now a link. So now basically I've got that built in there, so now I don't have to look that up. Basically the idea of what the guards are, basically a lot of times basically they will call out stuff like the guards are veterans. And so in the SRD, that could be a link like basically looks like this. That's where the stat blocks for veterans are. So if I want to copy that, I come back up here. Basically, if I want to, for example, put a stat block for prison guards, I'm just going to put that in square brackets. Oops, that's a P, not a bracket. Boop, just like that. Now I have a link for prison guards, which I could right click on and get taken to the basically to the SRD link. No need to basically having to pull out a book. I don't have to have a D&D 5th ed subscription. I don't have to have a D&D Beyond subscription. I can link to that just like that. So if I'm building this heist out and I'm not using basically something from D&D Beyond, or I don't have a D&D Beyond subscription, you could still build those links in just like that. Obviously, basically, as the lore link develops, we're going to be adding in more of those lookup systems so that you can do that wherever, basically for multiple systems, whether it is a basically D&D, whether it's Pathfinder. Blades in the Dark has an SRD. I talked about that already. They have an SRD, and so it'd be great to be able to add that in. So you could just quickly link in and be like, oh, I need to learn about clocks, which are a really neat way that Blades in the Dark does their ratcheting up of tension system, or basically showing basically ratcheting up attention, showing progress, et cetera, et cetera. I would just include a link directly to that SRD right there. Let's go and save that because I'll need this for next week. So we've reached just about the end of this time here. Hopefully, this has given you a little bit of insight on how basically how heists work, and basically in terms of talking about GMs, basically talking a little bit about Golden Vault and how basically how you would use Lore Link to build that out. Some stuff we didn't touch on. If you check, we talk about some other times. We have timelines. So if you want to set up basically those ticks of basically tick one is basically maybe you want to set up a timeline. Tick one guard basically like a caravan type heist. So tick one basically caravan basically is going to reach this point. Tick two caravan reaches this point. Tick three guard comes out takes a coffee break. Tick four guard goes off and uses the bathroom. Tick five and all those ticks I can have that set up as a timeline and register link events to them so I can have a quick and easy visual way of seeing what's going on. That would be something else. I can link those to sessions as well. But basically, there are locations. Basically, something else. Basically, like we talked about locations. One of the other features we've added for the basically at least coming to Lorelink here soon. Like we already have that map feature. So if I go ahead and click on R1 here, it's going to ask me, do you want to add a hotspot? I can say R1 to docs. Boop. Now I've got that there. If I need to move that, I can say move. I don't want to cover up that R1. I can put it here. So now I know that's basically I can have that hotspot on the dock. And if I click, if I change modes, you can see the fact that that hotspot takes me to that location, R01 the docks, just like that. All right. So in terms of future plans, and basically talking about basically like seriously, what is this like actually in action? Because you come basically if everything goes to plan, which plans are always up. Basically, we have basically players. Basically, we like everything else, even though basically this is my job. It is not necessarily everybody's in my team's job to be available to play D&D games on a random notice, as it were. But if everything goes to plan, next week we will be playing this game here on this channel. So if you want to be alerted when we go live about that, go ahead and drop a follow here on this channel, and we basically you'll get one of those neat notifications that tells you, hey, they've gone live and they're actually playing that game they talked about last week. Or if we're doing other stuff, like for example, we talked about playing other games like Blades in the Dark. We're looking at running a indie RPG called Floria for next month. So basically, if you're interested in any of those things, or if you just like the fact that sometimes we play video games on this channel, because sometimes I like poking at old TTRPG games and seeing some of the good ones, and like we played the Spelljammer game, some of the bad ones. Um, Basically, feel free to drop a follow. Basically, you'll get alerted about those just the same. If you want to catch up on past parts, like the past D&D adventure I talked about, where we ran Spelljammer, or the past part the past game where we played the previous heist in Starfinder. Check out our YouTube channel as we have a lot of those archived on there. You can check out both planning sessions for those uh, and the actual play sessions, and you can see those on there, and those are available there. They go up. Basically, they go up fairly regularly afterwards. It falls on me, and basically, I have to go through them because I like to make sure that they are accurately captioned rather than trusting YouTube's captions to 100% figure out what I'm saying at any given point. So I go through and I play with the captions and make sure that those are there. The link is in the chat. Thank you, 20. Captions are important. For multiple reasons. And so you can do that. But if you want to find out more about LoreLink, there are multiple ways you can do that. Hey, keep watching us here, YouTube channels or Twitch. Basically, if you were like, hey, I want to try this out, I want to play with this, I want to know when it comes out, basically, I want to know when new things are about that, you can go to our website, the Get Started link, which 20 has anticipated me and put up ahead. That can get you stuff like, oh, I want to sign up for the alpha and I want to actually get in there and play with it. That's in there. The newsletter is in there where we talk about our future plans. like the fact that we will be at Origins in June. We will have a booth at Origins. It's very exciting. Um, our good mod. Yes, you are. And basically, so you can find basically that's where you'll find out information about where we'll be at Origins. You come by and maybe what some of the cool stuff we're going to be doing at Origins. Maybe we're going to be doing good giveaways or doing other stuff. Basically, things like that. But you have to be on the newsletter to find it. Basically, newsletter is the best way to find out about that. Basically, we have the basically the Twitter. Even Streamlabs is getting in here and is talking about the basically our social media things. If you still go to Twitter because that still exists, Twitter basically is a lot where we talk about questions. We basically talk about streams and other stuff. They can be also on there. We're also on Facebook. Basically, technically, at some point, we'll be on LinkedIn. Maybe I don't know. Basically, not a lot of people. Basically, maybe not be the best place to follow us. But we definitely do follow us on the social media, Twitter, Facebook, things like that. That's another place to find out more about what we're doing. All that to say, there's lots of exciting stuff going on, and we're kind of ramping up this year to be a big year where we do all sorts of interesting things, introduce new features, basically do more channels, do more connections with a bunch of games, and do exciting stuff. So basically, following us and basically pick your preferred method of following us. Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook are probably the best places. And basically follow us, find out more, and we'll be happy to get back. Basically, happy to hear from you because feedback is what we do. We don't just sit here and produce this just for us. We want to produce this so that everyone can basically come to the table and play. Whether it's your first time jamming or your 3,000th session, we want you to be able to play and be able to have nothing between you and the players. All right. Thanks for watching. Have a good time, and we will catch you later.